So we have returned. We have returned from the Spiritual Living Convention, where there were over, almost there are about 700 people from 350 plus centers for spiritual living throughout the world. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about being one big family, one part of this global family, and how we can all be a part of a global vision.
We might be back physically, but I think I'm still flying.
And it's contagious, it really is. So it's that good kind of contagious where we can just have that joy that wells up from within us, and to know that all of the work that we're doing, all of these spiritual practices, all these qualities and capabilities of who we truly are just are rising up, and we get to ride that wave. And so bringing that back, it's part of our meditation practice. We're in a theme of meditation, which is having undistractable attention on reality, or that which is real in our life. And so today we'll talk about having more of unconditioned thinking and how we can bring that sense of love and joy to the world and be part of that global vision. So we can know that our meditation practices, we're going to also experience a little bit of a visioning practice. We have some handouts on your chairs for you because we want to incorporate more visioning for our personal lives, and to know that we're awakening in that. So instead of an affirmative prayer at the end like we usually do, we will have a visioning process which you can take to heart. And you can do this for yourself. It's a few years ago I had doubled my spiritual practice. And I would encourage each and every one of us to double our spiritual practice. So as we experience visioning, maybe you would incorporate that. You have a meditation, or read an affirmative, an affirmation or an affirmative prayer, and to just be in that life connection, to be in that spiritual connection. So we'll have that experience today that we can take with us. So you didn't know you're going to have some homework today. Not only do we have some new aerobic exercises, but we have some internal happening. So what that does, so meditation not only adds to the beauty and tranquility that we have in our lives, and we notice how that shows up in our surroundings, but we can bring that sense of unconditional love to our surroundings and have the beauty show up even more and more. And so a quick definition of meditation for me is, does anyone have AAA? AAA, yeah. So for me it's to allow, to accept, and to appreciate. That would be AAA. And so you can, call on AAA. I think someone was was it you, Jim? You were checking out your tires, and I said, I have AAA. So it reminded me that that's a beautiful formula, is just to allow this presence and to accept an even larger capacity for that expression, and then to appreciate that. So oftentimes I find myself daydreaming, and there's actually a Harvard study that says 49+% of our time during the day is spent daydreaming instead of having some conscious thoughts and conscious awareness. And Carol and I will bring to you more about how we can focus on what's really first priority, what's really that one thing in our life that makes a difference. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that. But there's that daydreaming that happens. And so for us to be lifted up and awakened from that dream, and to awaken to our magnificence even more and more, using these spiritual tools of meditation and prayer and visioning to, in essence, optimize and sensitize that which is real in our life. And so the Toltecs, if you remember the 4 agreements, the Toltecs call this having a new dream. So we're going to have a new dream, or in essence a new vision. We can have a new vision today to take with us. And so we might be part of society's dream, or whatever culture that we're in. We might be part of, billions of other people's dreams. And what we get to do today is be a part of our vision. We get to be a part of this global vision and bring our vision, our personal vision, to this global vision that we're all a larger part of in the Centers for Spiritual Living. And so together what we do is we create that dream, or we create that vision of our family with our friends, so that we can have matching shoes and be part of something larger. We can be part of that community. We can be part of our spiritual humanity. We know that we're awakening in our magnificence in a world that works for everyone. And that's what the Centers for Spiritual Living, our mission is. That's what we're here to do, is to be awakening in our magnificence in a world that works for everyone. And so what we're encouraged to do is to wake up from whatever that dream, or Dr. Ernest Holmes, who's the founder of the Science of Mind, which is a guide for spiritual living, says about race consciousness, or that which is subjective consciousness. We're subject to something else. What we get to do is, in essence, be conscious and have that awareness, much like the spirit, and then bring that to heart. So to know that we're living beyond conditions of whatever our humanness is, we're moving through whatever those conditions of our humanness is. And the Toltecs, just to bring in some ageless wisdom into our new thought, they talk about this fog that we're in. It could be much like a dream that the society is having. And to wake up from that dream where we have that fog may, in essence, bind us. We may feel bound by something. We may feel discouraged by something, or frustrated by something, or fearful about something. And as I had gotten my skis and my bindings on up at Park City, I was feeling a little bit bound by all that equipment. And then I wasn't sure which chairlift to take up, and I wasn't really ready to go up to the top for the first run of the day. And then I was on this lift, and what's really cool is I had met some people on the bus. They have a $5 bus that goes up from Salt Lake City up to the Park City Resort. And so I met some people. So I already had some friends that I was in line with, so I didn't have to be fearful about single, going single. Oh, I'm going alone up this hill. And it was snowing. It began to snow. And so as I got on the chairlift with my newfound friends, I got on this, and I was a little bit in anticipation of whatever that fear is. It's like, okay, I have to remember to pull the thing down so that I don't fall. Those natural fears that happen. There's a lot to remember, and a lot to, how do you make sure that this is going to fly? And as I got to the top, it was snowing a little bit more, which makes for good powder, which is really nice. And at the same time, it limits visibility. And so I got to the top of the mountain, and I'm in this fog because I'm in the clouds. And it's snowing. And it reminds me of Dr. Ken Gordon, who is our spiritual leader for the Centers for Spiritual Living for the next 4 years. He was reelected. He told a story about how he had taken his daughter out on a kayak trip, but he had limited visibility amongst these huge swells that he was kayaking from island to island, and he couldn't see what was behind him or what was before him. And it reminded me of just the day prior where I'd been at the top of the mountain ready to go down. It's all downhill from here. Just kidding. So I was up on the hill. I was up on top of this hill. And I thought, how am I going to see to get down? Well, what was neat on the chairlift on the way up was they have a map. And so I was able to say, okay, I'm going to go follow this home run. It's called Home Run. Don't you love that? It was this run called Home Run, and it's kind of like NASCAR. You just stay to the left, to the left, to the left, to the left, and keep turning like NASCAR. Although I didn't really feel like NASCAR because I was just getting my sea legs there. So what I had was I had that inner guidance. So I had an inner compass to say, okay, gravity's my friend. There's some laws in the universe that are my friend, that I can always turn uphill. And so I can always turn uphill and stop if I want to stop, because that adds some resistance. Normally we think in our life that resistance gets in the way. Well, I can use gravity to my advantage when I want to stop. The other thing is I wanted to remember and I'm standing in this fog and I don't have any visibility, that to keep my shoulders parallel, because as I'm centered, much like our meditation practice, as I'm aware, and as I'm centered, it's much easier to just have my feet move and to get in the groove of having my feet move rather than trying to steer with my whole body, right? So I just get to allow that balance and that harmony from that centered place. So my shoulders are more supposed to stay with what they call that fault line, or that line that's the straight line, like a straight path that we have in life. And so it's going to be much more efficient, even though I couldn't see a thing. And even though my friends were ready to go before me and to help navigate, and we were all going to navigate together. And so I had the inner guidance, and just knowing that I was poised. I was poised, and I was calm, and I was ready and in balance, and ready for that harmony and that poetry to take place. And to just rely on that sense of gravity. And I got to this one edge, so it's stay to the left to get the home run, stay to the left like NASCAR. But then there was this one drop-off called waterfall. So good thing I had looked at the map. So in life, we have a map like these spiritual principles. We have a map, we have some spiritual principles. And we also have this global vision that we're a part of, that we can rely upon. So as I was with these friends, and I was staying the course for the home run in as much poise as I could with as much visibility, I was able to not go down the waterfall. Yeah, I've been down those before. Yes, and I know we've all been down that road before that feels like a waterfall sometimes. And so for us to know that we have the grace and ease to get to where we're going, and to, in essence, have that home run. So I had the chart, which is much like our declaration of principles that we have for new thought, positive living, and all that deepening, that we have that spiritual connection to have that new awakening take place. So that I wasn't part of just either standing still or being stuck or being bound by that limited visibility. But to trust that there's the vision. And we're going to do some visioning this morning. We could do it this afternoon too. We could do it all the time. Wouldn't that be nice to have, life as a living prayer? And I feel like we've been riding on this prayerfulness and this dance. We really have been dancing. There were 80 songs at the Spiritual Living Convention. And so we bring some of that back to you right now. So that's what we're focusing on. So I was able to have the map, have the inner guidance, in essence, my inner compass, and my compassion for myself with all that feeling bound by that equipment and not feeling quite free yet to remain centered amongst that limited visibility. And what was great was then toward the afternoon, the fog lifted, and I was able to enjoy the sunshine and then enjoy the friends. So the fog lifted, and I didn't let it deter my getting to where I needed to be. So I was relying on faith. So even though I couldn't see what was behind me or what was before me, I was relying on faith to get me down the hill. And what's really interesting is I thought, well, I'll take a break with this fog stuff. And so I went up, and they have like this zip line. And evidently it's a different ticket. But the guy says, oh, sure, come on board. We'll give it to you anyways. Come on board. So all I had to do was ask. I showed up, and I asked. I said, hey, I'm here. Would you mind? I'd love to go. Oh, sure, here. You're supposed to pay, but here, go ahead. The same thing happened with the skis, as I had ordered some, economy package. But they said, oh, here, let's upgrade you to the competitive package. So it's a good thing, because I felt, that gave me even more confidence to make my way down the hill. So it's much like, it says it's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. That's in Luke chapter 12, 32 to 33. To awaken in that joy and to recognize that, yes, we can be the pleasure. We can do what is pleasurable, and we can have that pleasure happen in our life, no matter what the circumstances is. Yeah, it may look foggy sometimes, but I'm trusting and knowing that there is that faith that starts from within. And so I want to go to Carol a little bit, and as far as what that faith is, and to know that we have that navigation that's ever available that we can rely upon. And so that's where visioning comes in, as well as our meditation practice.
And so I want to go back to the skiing. When you've taken your lessons and they teach you how to do things, kind of like we study the science of mind, when you are faced with a whiteout, you have your best run ever, okay? I was prepared. I knew what to do. I couldn't see a thing. And it felt wonderful. Well, that comes with preparation. And what is preparation? Preparation is visioning, knowing where it is we want to go. Not what we don't want, but what we do want, okay? Preparation is learning. We were reminded again by our keynote speaker, Don Hobbs, that 10,000 hours of study makes you an expert. Hey, it's possible. You learn these things, you know these things, you have the faith in what you've learned, and anything is possible. And so our keynote speaker, he spoke in the morning and then again in the afternoon. He was, Jim and I, we learned from this gentleman back in the 80s when he was just a young whippersnapper. He couldn't have been more than 20 at the time, really.
He still is a whippersnapper.
Yeah, and he's still very young looking too. But and he just reminded us of our principles. He reminded us of having the vision. He worked from and lectured from a book called The One Thing. I wrote down in my notes, gee, I need to talk with Reverend Darlene about maybe creating a lesson plan for this, and we'll do it maybe in the summer, a 4-week series or something. If you're interested, we'll talk about that. But the one thing, what is the one thing that gets you excited about life? Something to think about. And we'll have a little chance to do that on the other side of your paper later this morning.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, so it's, if you go out on the net too, it's The One Thing, and it's a number one, theonething.com. And just briefly, just as an appetizer, Don Hobbs talks about having a block of time, because we all have 14,440 minutes in a day. We all have the same amount of time. And it's a matter of what our priority is, what we're focusing on. So, what makes the difference between having that fulfilled, a fulfilled life or a not so fulfilling life is our approach and what we're focusing on. And so what he does is he encourages us to, in essence, calendar what is most vital to us. It might be we have, so our family time. Maybe we have our family time and our quality time just calendared out. I know that I like to take breaks throughout the day, or make sure that I've got like an hour in the morning or an hour in the afternoon so that I can see that I'm tending to what my spiritual life is, my physical well-being is, my relationships and friendships are. And then that's like a whole slice of the pie as far as my well-being. And then knowing that the work part, my business life and my finances, that's another slice of the pie that then follows and takes care of itself. It's much like as we talk with live your vision, live your bliss, and then all else follows. So that as we are focused on what's most important, then we're not distracted. Does anyone have any distraction like social media, phone calls, grandkids, throughout the day? I think at one time I may be communicating in like 6 different ways, text, instant messaging, email, phone, voicemail. I think we're up to, however many hands. So hands down, what we want to do is to say, boy, I'm giving myself this gift of quality time. So if it's a couple and a half hours every morning, and sometimes that takes shutting the door, it takes going out in the garden, it takes walking with a friend. I consider if I go walking with a friend, that to be some quality personal care time. It could be that I need to also inform the people around me that this is my time. So it could be as I have my my morning practice with a cup of decaf, because I'm flying already, cup of decaf in the morning with meditation, that's the quality time. Even my dog, will meditate. She knows that word, to meditate with me. So it reminds me of what Dr. Ernest Holmes says. He says, if one would take time, once a day at least, just once a day at least, to let go of all that is not true and lay hold of reality. And it's kind of what we were talking about the skiing part too, is I got to pay attention and to, he continues, let go of doubt, distrust, worry, condemnation, and fear, and lay hold of life in its expression of beauty, truth, and wholeness. Then our mental congestion would be healed. We get to have the clarity instead of be congested with other things. If it is static, fixed, inflexible, and I had to be flexible getting down that hill, boy howdy. If it had static, fixed, inflexible outlook, which produces a tendency on the part of the underactive, hold steadfastly to the thought that all of life is in a state of eternal flow. So that as I have spirit, that spiritual connection as my priority, all else follows. It's in a state of that eternal flow. So he encourages to relax our thought and allow the free flowing of life essence in and through you, and your body will respond according to its healing activity. So there's a power and a presence that is responding, and that as we have that as our priority, that could be the one thing. And what are we up to have that happen and be more prominent and be more in our focus, in our lens of life? So
I'm looking over her shoulder. This is on
Yes.
page 233 in the Science of Mind book.
thank you. So we are part of a global vision where we can take the time and go inward at least once a day and to lay hold of what is true, to lay hold of that reality, that sense of what is real and true for us. Peace. It could be I'm accepting and embodying more peace. I'm in harmony. I'm affirming that I'm in harmony. And for us to be a part of something larger, of which we are, to know that there is that greater good, there is that part of life of which we're expressing. And that as we envision this more consciously, as we have that fog lift, we're able to be part of this global vision and to have it be welcome in our life. We don't need to effort it to come into being because it is already the truth of who we are. And so we've provided a copy to you, and then we also want you to have an experience of visioning for your life, for your divine unfoldment in life. So it's much like as we're creating that world that works, we're co-creating that world that works for everyone, we have this infinite presence which we're taking to heart. So what I'd like to do is Carol and I will alternate reading this to you, and you're welcome to have your eyes open, you're welcome to join us with whatever's on the screen. And so what we're a part of is something larger. As that fog lifts in our life, we know that this is the aspect of our magnificence that is awakening for us. And so we're part of this movement, this divine movement, so that as we are envisioning all people and all beings and all life as expressions of God, we see a world in which each and every person lives in alignment with his or her highest spiritual principle, emphasizing unity with God and connection with each other. A world in which individually and collectively we are called to a higher state of consciousness and action. So it's much like having that faith. It's much like having that map.
We envision humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence and discovering the creative power of thought. A world where each and every person discovers his or her own personal power and ability to create an individual life that works within a world that works for everyone. We envision a world in which we live and grow as one global family that respects and honors the interconnectedness of all life. A world where this kinship with all life prospers and connects through the guidance of spiritual wisdom and experience.
We envision a world where personal responsibility joins with social conscience in every area of the political, corporate, academic, and social sectors, providing sustainable structures to further the emerging global consciousness. We envision a world where each and every person has enough food, a home, and a sense of belonging. A world of peace and harmony. Enfranchisement and justice. We envision a world in which resources are valued, cared for, and grown, and where there is generous and continuous sharing of these resources.
We envision a worldwide culture in which forgiveness, whether for errors, injustices, or debts, is the norm. We envision a world which has renewed its emphasis on beauty, nature, and love through the resurgence of creativity, art, and aesthetics. We envision a world that works for everyone and for all creation.
So for us to awaken in our magnificence in a world that works for everyone, what we're doing is we're clearing out the fog so that then we can activate even more joy, even more love, even more peace, even more harmony. And so this week it's really appropriate that we get to March 4th. So March 4th is coming up, right? Yeah. So even if we're not on a ski slope, what we get to do is to know that, yes, we're using those universal principles and faith to our advantage, and knowing that we're guided and inspired to lead beautiful lives and to be in beautiful surroundings with beautiful people, and to know that we're paying attention to that which brings us even more love and joy. So if that's our first priority, and so if you want to take up just a quick moment and say, what is my first priority? What's my one thing? It might be that for me to have a sense of aliveness. That might be my one thing. To live each moment to the fullest in aliveness. Whatever that is for you. Take about 30 seconds, and the neat thing is you can keep having it evolve and expand. And so just extending gratitude for yourself, knowing that there's that inner knowingness and that inner compass, and that we are absolutely guided in this place of faith, and trusting that all is well in our world, and that we are co-creating a world that works for everyone. What I want to do is, part of this planting of seeds and part of our spiritual practices is a practice called visioning. And on your chairs is a template, and there's some really pretty pens with flowers around that you can use. If you want to write your responses to take home with you, there's 5 questions that we're going to ask, just a handful of questions. We're going to lead you in a meditation, and this will be a brief version. And then oftentimes we'll take whatever comes through in a visioning, which is it's a place where we can use our intuition. We can be in this alignment with the divine, optimizing and sensitizing that which is real, that which is true for us, and to allow those spiritual qualities to come forward. Some people may see an image, like I had an image of a successful ski adventure and that feeling of freedom. So my image was a feeling of freedom, and even though I had some fog, I was able to have that vision of freedom come to fruition. So it could be that there's a word that may come to mind. It could be that there's a feeling tone. It may be something like a sound, like a beautiful sound, or chocolate, or whatever might come to you in visioning. Might be a warm embrace. So what we're going to do is, in meditation, create a field of unconditional love. It's much like the soil. It's a field of unconditional love wherein these ideas can come forward and be planted and to take root, because they're nurtured then with the sunshine and the water and are able to thrive. And so again, it's what we're focusing on. And so this is the one thing, this will be the one practice we'll do today as a gift to ourselves. And it'll be a briefer version. So it's life visioning has been done for ages, and Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith of the Agape International Center brought this back into fashion with his book, Life Visioning. And it's applicable to all aspects of life. So you could do it in a particular area for your life, like a relationship, like an area of your business, like for your health, what you envision for your health. So you can do this. It's applicable to any area, and you can just add it to your morning practice. I have a visioning partner, so in addition to some prayer partners, I have a visioning partner, and then we gather up on Skype and do that with each other. And so sometimes you can have music in the background if you want. You can just do this gift. And the neat thing is you have the recipe right there in your hands. You have the recipe. You can also Google some stuff on YouTube that will help do it for you as well. So we're going to take about 7 or 8 minutes and be prepared to be open and receptive. It's like putting, my grandmother used to say, just put your antenna up. Put your antenna up, because there's something already broadcasting, whether it's like satellite or radio. My grandmother also said is to focus on the donut rather than the hole. And so this adds to the juiciness, that sweetness of life. It provides an opportunity for us to really say, yum, let's have more of that. Okay? Y'all ready? Yep. Is there anything else you wanted to say? All right. So if you want to just take a deep and profound breath right here and just allow yourself some relaxation, and we'll just relax into this space. And so again, in this process of visioning, and knowing that there is a vision which is unfolding in a beautiful divine pattern, that there is this pattern which is of love, it is of peace, it is of harmony, it is of joy. And just basking in this very moment, knowing that there is this all-encompassing presence and power which is unencumbered. It is free. It is the source energy. It is the true essence, the divine pure love, the divine true essence of our lives. And so again, allowing and accepting and appreciating, and just being open and receptive, and just being right here in this present moment of the now, knowing that there is this chair that we're sitting in that is very supportive, and feeling very supported by this universal presence and essence of who we are, and just basking in this very presence and essence. And I'd like to just take 3 deep breaths and invite us to just take 3 deep breaths, realizing that there is this love essence, this life force which is breathing us right here and right now. And again, another deep breath, being relaxed and open and receptive, with nowhere else to go and nowhere else to be but right here and right now. And again, just another deep breath, perhaps breathing to the tips of your toes and out through the top of your head. And we'll even have a little bonus breath. Go ahead and breathe through your heart. Breathe through the heart, and just allowing this presence to be fully enriched and enlivening in this moment. And now I'd like you to imagine a time where there is unconditional love in your life, and it might be like a grandparent loving a grandchild, that there's no agenda, no judgment, no condition to hinder, to delay, to block anything. There is only unconditional love. And it may be something that's spacious. It may be in this heart space, this still point, this grace-filled place of the heart. And what I'd like you to do is, in envisioning that place of unconditional love and knowing that it is that expanding presence and essence, that divine essence, what I invite us to do is to increase this tenfold, 10 times. You ready? 10 times unconditional love. And breathe as this tenfold unconditional love space. And now I invite us to have this increase and amplified and magnified 100 times. Unconditional love, this field of unconditional love 100 times. Ready? And being of this infinite presence, allowing this to be exponential, infinite, unconditional love in this field of unconditional love. Ready? Exponential. And in this field, we ask the first question, and feel free to write down anything that comes to you. You're also welcome to just allow it to be this beautiful wave of energy. Much like the wave is connected to the ocean, much like the sun ray is connected to the sun, there's that spiritual connection of oneness. We ask the first question, which is, what is Spirit's vision for my life? What is Spirit's vision for my life? And any answer is a good answer. There's nothing right or wrong. It's just allowing it and accepting that intuitive nature to give you the answers. What is Spirit's highest vision for my life? And the second question is what spiritual qualities am I being more fully? What am I becoming? What am I being more fully in order to be the vision? What qualities or what capacities am I being more fully in my life? I may be more loving. I may be more kind, compassionate, whatever that is. Grateful. And the third question, what am I releasing? So for instance, if my hands are full, what I want to do is empty my hands and provide a place of trust and surrender. What am I releasing in order to make room for the vision? What am I releasing in order to make room for the vision? if there's any, what seems like a limitation, what am I releasing in order to make room for the vision? And next, what am I embracing? What am I welcoming? What am I embracing in order to be this vision? What am I embracing? And the last question is there anything else? Is there anything else? And so just taking a moment to internally thank your inner guidance and your intuition, and knowing that you can continue this process at any time. It can be added to whatever your daily or weekly or monthly practice is. And to just be grateful. And what I tend to do is include in my practice and in my prayerfulness is, what am I being more fully? What am I welcoming? So that's my image, or my realization step of affirmative prayer. I'm realizing and affirming that which is life affirming. I'm taking those qualities of what I'm being more fully, because we can't bring anything into our experience without that consciousness of that new way of being, those new capacities, seeing that it's possible, that I'm capable, that I deserve those qualities, that's who I am, that's the truth of who I am, and that's what's really real. So that I bring those qualities into my prayerfulness of what I'm being more fully and what I'm embracing. And that's what I tend to have be the one thing, or it could be many things, but that's the one thing, that's that navigation that's happening. As I'm knowing, yeah, it's all downhill, I'm using gravity to my advantage.